context.
So, regrettably, the deed is done. Over our objections in opposition, Democrats in the Ways and Means Committee have unleashed a dangerous new political weapon that overturns decades of privacy protections for average taxpayers. The era of political targeting and of Congress's enemies list is back. And every American taxpayer who may get on the wrong side of the majority in Congress is now at risk. And our worry is that this will launch a dangerous new era, a new political background, where frankly politics gets more divisive, more painful, and I think more disheartening. What was clear today, I will invite my colleagues to comment, but what was clear today is that public disclosure of President Trump's private tax returns has nothing to do with the stated purpose of reviewing the IRS presidential audit process. It's clear, too, that no Congress has ever made public, the full private tax returns of any American taxpayer. This is especially troubling because, as you heard us comment here at the end, this committee voted on documents that are not yet complete, where admittedly private, personal identifying characteristics have not yet been redacted from these tax returns. And our worry, obviously, is that it is unfair to make vulnerable and to make public information that I think every American would agree should be made and kept private. And so that, too, I think is troubling for the behavior and the actions we saw today from this committee. With that, I would welcome any of my colleagues who would like to comment.
I think what you're going to see is clear that in spite of everything the Democrats and been said in the public, President Trump has paid his taxes, he's filed his returns, he has been under audit, and nothing that's going on today about releasing his tax returns is going to do anything to change the auditing process. And that's what the American people need to know. Just as the chairman said, this is about a witch hunt to do something that has nothing to do with the auditing process, and that's what we've been spending the last 5.5 hours talking about.
I would. If there's one thing the American people fear more than anything else, is the IRS. That's the agency that keeps you awake at night. That's the agency that you know, if they come after you, you are really going to a suspect arrangement of things that you would never have faced before. So I just think that when we look at this and we look at the process that took place today, the amendments that we asked to be provided that would have protected taxpayers a little bit more, all of it was disregarded. All of it was disregarded. So the American people can once again go to bed tonight knowing that their greatest fear is the IRS, and the IRS will have access to everything and can expose everything about taxpayers that they want from this day on. It's a horrible day for the American taxpayer. The faith, trust, and confidence that the people have to have in this system is shaken to its very roots.
The fact that the Democrats think the IRS needs a lot of work, it does not require the release of private information. And I think it's wholly unnecessary, and I think it sets a horrible precedent.
I would note, and let's begin to take some questions here, but I would note Republicans offered an amendment that would refer these documents to investigation of the Joint Committee on Taxation, a credible, experienced organization that has conducted similar reviews in the past, such as the Enron investigation, to review fully and with adequate time the IRS presidential mandatory audit process, and to bring back that analysis report to Congress within 90 days. We provide an alternative that focuses on the purported reason for this, releasing these tax returns without creating a new precedent that can jeopardize the privacy of every American. With that, questions? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to address this, I guess it's very top of what you said, but what exactly was in the report that they are submitting to the full House? Is it all of Donald Trump's tax returns over the past 6 years, including his business returns, all the documents?
Public is now? Yes, sir. Yeah, so I'd say in summary, they were the tax returns of President Trump for 6 years, including the tax returns of 8 affiliated businesses. It also included the audit notes and trails on those audits. What became clear is that almost all those audits that the IRS is doing is not yet complete. So any characterizations of the returns themselves, you have to acknowledge this is incomplete at this time. It does have the returns themselves. And what else?
Reports.
The IRS audit reports themselves.
Majority report.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, majority report, and then a sort of a rushed analysis by Joint Committee on Taxation, which had only about 11 days to look at this voluminous data on their impressions about the audit process. As you'd imagine, since this is only targeting one president and ignores and leaves out the presidential audits of 8 others, presidents who have been, we believe, or hope the IRS has audited correctly, and it was hard for them to draw conclusions. They had individuals, Joint Tax has some individual comments about each audit year about what the IRS should pursue, but contrary to claims, they did not criticize the audits as lax or incomplete, but merely these are the issues that the IRS should be looking at as they audit each year.
So all that information will be public, is
It
your
will,
understanding?
and is, to my knowledge.
How quickly will that be, tonight?
So we had asked the same question. Several of our members raised the issue here of, in this rush to make these tax returns public, the work had not been done to protect the personal identifiers within those tax returns themselves. That's troubling. Should be for you as well, whether it's children, addresses, other issues that frankly should not be in the public purview. Social security numbers, bank accounts, and all this is happening with me just listening to my members. And so those are very worrisome. We had sought to have those redactions made now before the committee voted on it. We think that's the correct way to go forward, but Democrats voted to move forward.
And how will we see those documents? Will they be posted? Will it be...
So I'll defer to Chairman Neal on the timing of that. The vote to make them public just occurred.
But the process for making them public?
Yeah, I'll defer to them on that.
For what's your expectations?
Well, our expectation is that along with the release of those private tax returns in the documents, that they also include a public transcript of the debate and deliberation that we just went through. I think it's important for the public to know who stood for this unprecedented actions of releasing private tax returns and who was fighting to protect private taxpayers from these actions.
From what you saw, do you have confidence that the IRS, particularly while he was president, was doing a thorough job of auditing?
You know, it's premature because so many of those yearly audits are not yet complete. Clearly, these are complex tax returns, no doubt. Many of the issues that were raised were what you would expect from a group of businesses that deal in real estate. So typical deductions and returns, whether it's charitable contributions, net operating losses, issues like that are present in these returns as well. That's what you would expect from a major real estate business and group of businesses. So I do think where there's agreement, regrettably, that could have avoided all this, is that our Democrat colleagues would like to find common ground on a bill that would codify the IRS rules that will require by law those mandatory audits, would provide more resources to the IRS in those audits. And then they are proposing some areas that concern us about public disclosure of the IRS notes and process themselves. But the point that we made very clearly is if this seriously was their goal, is to make sure that presidential audit process worked, we would have been more than happy to work with them 4 years ago, where it would not be necessary to establish this dangerous new precedent.
Is there any information that the committee has that shows the former president trying to influence the audit in any way while he was president?
So in the reports themselves, to my knowledge, to my recollection, there is not. But one thing I will say, we will refer comments about the individual returns to the Trump tax team themselves. Most of our lawmakers and members, like Democrats, had a mere 6 hours to review, more like glimpse, at 6 years of tax returns over 8 different business entities. So we'll refer comments on the specific tax items and provisions to the tax attorneys and team for the former president.
You have seen the report, in fact, you voted on the report. Do you have the report?
So the reports are a group of documents that include the memos from Chairman Neal on the purpose, the original request. Then it goes through to the audit notes, the tax returns themselves, and the Joint Committee on Taxation hasty review of this. So clearly, we did not have time to delve into 6 years of private tax returns.
I'm sorry, we're all out of time.
Are there 2 separate reports, one from Ways and Means and one from Gaetz?
So those are included in one package of documents.
Do you have any concerns about the lack of taxes that Donald Trump has paid over the past years?
Yeah, so what was clear from the reports is that the audits that are occurring, the tax audits of his, are still occurring. And so there's no final determination on what the president owes for those years. And I think we ought to let the IRS do their job, correct? Before we characterize these. Thank you all very much.